When I get older, I will be stronger. They'll call me freedom, just like a waving
And
flag.
welcome to World Cup today. Duane, I got a little surprise music.
I,
It's about World Cup
taken-
memories.
oh,
Sorry?
yeah, I'm taken back to 2010. I think I heard that song 7,000 times.
That's why I played it. Memories of the World Cup is what we're talking about today. And Kanan, most famous Canadian singing a World Cup song ever. In 2010, we heard this song everywhere, in every languages, French, English, Spanish, Djibouti, every single possible language. We heard this song, and I wanted to start the show with a little throwback because that's what we're going to do today. Duane and I will talk about our World Cup memories from the last wherever World Cup. It could be 86, could be 1990. I was a bit too young, but yes. But first of all, Duane, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thank you to Grant for all of his Friday wishes. As per always, it is a good weekend of soccer ahead, and we're going to talk about all that on Monday, but it's World Cup preview today, Kevin. And my memories of the World Cup go back to 86. They're a little vague in 86, to be honest, but Canada was there, and I know that I watched the Canada game, whether it was live or tape delay. I'll never really know unless I get a time machine. But really, my true memories started about 90, and I think that my list may reflect some of that in the near future when we put it out there, Kevin.
I don't know. For some reason, I have the image of a certain player crying on the pitch in a semifinal because getting a yellow card. I have a feeling this will make it to your top three, but I'll start with mine. I'll start with one of my memories, and this is my earliest non-playing soccer memory. If you've seen my studio, the real studio before, you know that in 1992 I was playing for Boisbriand, and that's my playing days. But in 1994, I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks during the World Cup. But the thing I remember is me receiving a nice little jersey that had like a dog on it, that had like a ball, and it says USA 94. And that was one of my memories of the World Cup. First ever memories was having the World Cup in the United States in 1994 when I was in the hospital. But I was okay. If I regretted it, it was nothing terrible. But yeah, the dog and the ball.
The dog and the ball. I actually was cleaning out my parents' storage unit last year sometimes, and I found a whole bunch of USA 94 stamps with the dog with the ball on it. So there you go. I tucked them away somewhere. Don't know where they are now.
Probably worth something though.
Yeah, I looked it up. They were worth about $5. Yeah, a little bit, not quite the face value, not a ton. Yeah, the World Cup mascots. They're always a little quirky. They're always a little weird, and they're not always memorable, but some of them are just downright bizarre. They're not quite as bad as the Olympic mascots, and those are wacky half the time.
Yeah. Remember the Sasquatch in Vancouver? I do. Never seen him. Like, it was just a rumor. Nobody ever saw the mascot because it was Sasquatch, and Sasquatch don't exist. Well, that was big.
What was the Show Me, or what was the one that the female, the Women's World Cup here in Canada in 2015? It was some weird owl that was terrifying.
You remember the name? That was Show Me. That was Show Me the Owl, and not Show Me the Money. It was Show Me the Owl. And, scared the bejesus out of me. I remember pictures of the owl with those two big eyes looking at you, be like, man, is that supposed to like make kids want to come here or make kids run away? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say what kids, I'm not being a kid myself. It's hard to really tell what frightens them or not, but certainly that was frightening to me. Yeah, mascots. I could tell you were about the right age that a mascot would have been fun for you too. And being in the hospital for the World Cup, there's worse times to be in the hospital. You can just watch soccer all day.
Remember though back then? Well, yeah, those small TVs, like a small square, like a 4-inch by 4-inch. You had to pay for it, but you could have television in your room. Of course, being a kid of the 90s, I could not be in the hospital without TV. Like, guys, parents, mom and dad, you gotta get me TV. What do you want me to do here? Like, I'm here for 3 weeks, no TV? Yeah, it's not gonna happen. If I don't have my Nintendo, at least I need my TV.
Not like you're gonna read or something. I mean, come
read?
on.
What? Me read? Too difficult.
All right. My first memory that I'm going to throw out, you mentioned the 91, and the 90 World Cup in general is a big one for me. It really is kind of my origin story in many ways, but I'm going to throw back a little bit further. I don't have solid memories of 1986, but I do have some memories. I've told the story many times before that the very first Canada game I ever watched was the game that they qualified for the World Cup. So to steal Drake's line, I started from the top and twisted a bit, and now I'm here. Yeah.
You're just like NASCAR. You start the thing with the most important thing ever, then it just downhill from there. Start with the Daytona 500. You start your soccer watching career with Canada qualifying for the World Cup to never see it happen the rest of your life. Yeah. It's the way to go.
Well, exactly. I should have just stopped when I was ahead. I'm with the 1986 World Cup, which I'm going to talk to in a minute. I'm not sure whether I saw that qualifying game live or not. It might have been on what we called Sports Saturday, which would have been a condensed game, but it didn't matter to me. I thought it was live. I was watching it. There was no internet back then. Believe it or not, I was not on Twitter in 1986. Twitter was not around in 1986, and thank God for that. It was a great. Well, it wasn't a great performance at the World Cup for Canada, but it was a better performance in the 1986 World Cup for Canada, especially in the game against France, than many people remember or choose to remember. They just look at the 0 goals and they they sucked and whatever. And well, obviously they were overmatched, but in that France game, they only lost 1-0. The goal was in the 78th minute that France scored. They hit the post, or the crossbar, I should say. Canada did. Dale Mitchell free kick did. It was just a great sort of moment, and maybe probably the high watermark of Canadian men's football over the years, which, is both exciting for that moment and not saying much. But nonetheless, that France game, I remember watching it. The other two games are a little vaguer in my memory, but I definitely watched that France game. That was the second Canada game I ever watched, and it is going to be on my list of top 3 World Cup memories.
It's a tough one to beat. Tough one to beat for sure. Our own country. Not our heritage country. Our own country. We're not used to this, but in 2010, my heritage country had a difficult time, and that's one of my memories of the World Cup. Of course, 2010 is like all into a blur of vuvuzela noise. This is what I remember from 2010 is but outside of the noise, France and how well Nicolas Anelka. You remember Anelka? You remember the troublemaker?
Yeah, a little bit.
That was fun. Fun times at practice, fighting between players and coaches, people sent home, the entire team on strike. And like before the third, what was going on? Yeah, what could have been 4 years after the debacle of the, Kudbul, the headshot.
Yeah,
I'm going to talk about that soon. First, 2010, France. Of course, a lot of my memories are a bit influenced by France because it is my heritage country in a way. I kind of have to, because of necessity, choose them or England as my heritage. And France has been better than England lately at the World Cup level, so that's what explains it. But, yep, 2010, France bowing out and having no honor in South Africa is one of the memories I'll never forget, and I think no one will ever. Infighting, discord, controversy, that was a soap opera.
No, they were a mess in that World Cup. I remember the 2010 World Cup maybe in detail more than most because I was working for the Score running their live blogs, which actually was a pretty lucrative gig. I wish they were still on there. If anyone wants to have someone that's run a live blog next month, just let me know.
The late 2000s, Duane, how the Score was running the world. That changed. A lot of things changed, but yeah. Yeah,
there's a lot of great writing back on that site back in the day. But yeah, for sure. France every other World Cup, like that's their pattern. I'm trying to remember what they did last time. Were they good last World Cup? Well, they made the Euros, so maybe that eliminates them. Is this their on or their off World Cup, Kevin?
I think it's their on World Cup, but I think now it's a bit of a new generation, right? There was controversy. I don't think it was 4 years ago, but it was less than that. But the Valbuena Benzema situation and the girlfriend and the pictures, so there was more controversy just 2 years ago when France hosted the European Championship, which is the birthplace of this show, by the way, during the beginning of France 2016 before the Copa America Centenario. But this time around, 2018, France is a bit of a, I wouldn't say dark horse because they're always in the contenders now. But if Griezmann uses it as a showcase to get himself a lucrative contract and a transfer, which probably going to be the case if Mbappe lives up to his expectations. I think the key for France, of course, is Pogba, because he's like the X factor, he's the intangible. If he plays the way we know he can play, and if he plays the way he played against City a few weeks ago for United, France is going to go deep and is going to be finishing the tournament in confetti, I imagine. But if not, if it's all up to Greece, well, the Griezmann might not be enough. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. But 2010 was a mess.
And we do have a guest booked for the week, so not next week, but the week after, to a French expert to talk about the French team. So we'll give more of a detailed breakdown of that team in the near future. But I'll move on to my next memory. I'm going to go a little personal with this one, not necessarily about what was happening in the World Cup in general, but 1998 was the first full summer that I lived in the city of Toronto during a World Cup. I've been to Toronto during World Cups in '94. Saw a bit of what it was about, but 98 in many ways was the World Cup in which the cafes of the city were taken over by football fans for the first time, and it truly was a celebration every day in a different neighborhood. And I remember just wandering from cafe to cafe. Probably my liver just needed a little bit of a break at the end of it, but it was just a great time in the city. And that summer is really, I have very fond memories of that summer, and it was particularly around that situation, just hanging out outside and enjoying the sun and enjoying the soccer. And I remember watching the final, and we were in Little Italy to watch the final, and we walked from Italy. We couldn't get a bar there. We walked into the Portuguese area, so you're seeing Italy and Brazilian fans sort of intermingling. It was a lot of our French fans, I should say, and Italy wasn't in the 1998 World Cup, but you saw the French fans and they're acting with Brazilian fans, with Portuguese fans that were changing their shirts so that they were Brazilian for the day. It was just a lot of fun, and it's one of the things that we don't get. A Canada in the World Cup, obviously, in this country. It hasn't happened since '86, and that I was too young to know what exactly the reaction would have been, and it wouldn't have been the same as it is now anyway. And so that kind of allows us to enjoy the World Cup without the stress and the pressure of having a home team, having a favorite team in it, really. And I think that in many ways, and American listeners might want to take stock in this, you can actually really enjoy a World Cup if you go about it with that kind of approach. And like I said, 98 really stands out to me for that.
Well, you inspired me to add another moment to my list, Duane, because you're right. The World Cup, sometimes it's not just about the games. It's not just about when you watch it, what happens and what emotion it makes you feel. Sometimes the World Cup, it's about who you're watching the game with, where you are, what's the road to get there, what's the journey. Sometimes it's not about the destination, but it is about the journey. And yes, 98 was an important World Cup, of course, for me. France winning the World Cup was really great, but it made me understand and discover more in Montreal, the places and friends that I knew I was 14 then years old, so I was discovering the sport of soccer as a consumer and not as a player, and I was discovering this great unknown world of, wow, there's bars dedicated to this thing that are just open at 8 a.m. in the morning just to show off. Wow, the dedication of those fans. Just learning and just being exposed to the sport was amazing. But in 2014, one of my most favorite World Cup day experience, I was hungover. It was a rough night at work, let's just put it that way. And the next morning, I get up like, oh yeah, France is playing. I should get to a French bar. I get there like 10 minutes before opening kickoff. There's no way in Annecy that I'm going to get into the bar. Yeah. I can't. I go to two doors down to like a restaurant, but it's kind of a French restaurant, so it's jam-packed, TVs everywhere. I like, sir, you need to eat if you want to stay here. I'm like, fine, just give me a croissant and a coffee, and hopefully I'm going to be okay. Then I receive a message from one of my German friends from Ottawa. Hello, John. You're probably listening to this. Hope you are. She's like, I'm coming to Montreal to watch Germany play versus Algeria this afternoon. Are you doing anything? I'm like, well, I'm coming to meet you. Why not? Let's have some beers. Let's have some fun. And the rest is a bit of blur the rest of the day. But that part of the day was awesome.
Well, precisely, and like you say, it is a lot about that. I remember going to a Brazil game up in Little Brazil here in Toronto, and taking a friend who had never sort of experienced that, was a small town person, and just seeing their mouth wide open, seeing the celebrations on the street. It is a lot of fun, and that's, we look forward to it. And not much longer now until we'll be what were we talking about, 34 days, right? So,
19 days plus 14, so that's what, 33 days? 34 days? Like, a month. It's a month to the World Cup. Like, 3 days away from being a month to the World Cup. So, yeah.
Fair enough. All right, I'm going to go to my third one here. And you mentioned the 1990 World Cup, and that absolutely, as I said, has a lot of general memories that we talked about Gaza in yesterday's show. That certainly is, Gaza's tears. They jump out as well. There's that great documentary that I did tweet out that you should listen to if you have a chance. So lots of memories there, but I'm going to skip that because I did talk about it yesterday, and I'm going to go to another England memory, and that's in 1998, and it has to do with a young David Beckham. And Diego Simeone, and a little bit of a flick kick that ended up with a red card for David Beckham. And I can still close my eyes and picture him flipping his leg up at that point. And this is kind of just at the point that I was really getting my hate on for Manchester United. And Beckham, of course, was a Manchester United fan, so our player, I should say. So that was the moment that I kind of first, I think, experienced that club rage at a country situation. That stupid United player got England down. And man, England, of course, battled to kicks after that. But that red card was, he was public enemy number one for a long time in England.
Yeah. It's funny because the moment I have is similar. Just you change the team, you change the name. It's kind of similar. But no, yeah, a red card to David Beckham, 1998. One of his most earliest career memory. A bad one, but one of his earliest moment in his career was that famous red card. Now with the very baggy jersey. That's what I remember from 1998. Damn, the jerseys were so baggy. Like, wow, you guys could probably get caught in the wind. You're probably losing some speed when you're running because of your jersey catching some wind.
Well, and little Michael Owen, who was, 18 or 19, breakout star, obviously, in that World Cup, was swimming in the jersey. I remember that, too. Yeah, they were huge baggy things back in the late 90s, for sure. But, yeah, that game, England's always, I find them entertaining to watch in World Cups because, they're my heritage team and I do cheer for them, but I don't have the same sort of drive and passion that I might, for Canada, for sure, or if I was English, proper. So, I kind of just find them entertaining, and that was entertaining. They never disappoint that way. They rarely go out dull, and they didn't in 1998. It was certainly a memorable sort of event. That was a good World Cup when I think back on it. It's interesting how World Cups take on like sort of a life of their own and like have images that are, that stick with you from it. And I think, speaking of which, one of the most famous images might be your next one, Kevin, and I'll let you just jump in.
2006. Last game of his career. He's gonna retire. It's the World Cup final. Italy, France, everything to play for. It's the 80th something minute. And some damn player just telling them, I'm gonna do something to your sister, to your wife. I don't remember what was the actual quote from Materazzi. But anyways, I'm gonna Je vais niquer ta sœur. That's what I heard he said back then in French, which means I'm gonna have fun with your sister. And
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and the headbutt. Heard around the world. Zidane lowers his head. Coup de boule. Down goes Materazzi. Down goes Materazzi. And Zidane is sent off. But the game wasn't lost there. The game was lost on penalties. And I know a lot of people blame Zidane over the year. Oh, if Ronaldo gets sent off, they would have won the World Cup. If Ronaldo gets sent off, he would have scored a penalty. Well, you know who didn't score a penalty? Who wasn't sent off? Trezeguet. It's your fault, Trezeguet. It's been 14 years. How many years? 12 years. And I still remember. Trezeguet, it's your fault. Yeah, red card, whatever. Don't hit the bar.
Exactly. There you go.
Sorry, I had that brewing in me for a while.
Yeah, well, I could tell. Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't have got sent off. Not only the most bizarre moment in World Cup history, I think it was maybe one of the most bizarre moments in sports history. Just at that moment with that, like, is there a bigger sporting game in any 4-year period than the World Cup final? Arguably not.
Was there more human being watching the exact same thing at that moment than ever before in history? And the answer is no. Every World Cup final, every 4 years, the most watched moment in human history. And Zidane decided to be on the wrong side of that history.
Yeah, there's casual fans that probably didn't watch another game for 4 years, right? That's their endearing memory of it. Just such a bizarre play. As I said, it transcends soccer. It's a bizarre play in the history of sport. And what possibly can get said to have that much rage build up? It's just such a funny thing. The pressure of the moment, who knows? And such a great player for his career to end with it. Wow. I mean, Maradona's career ended with a drug test, right? Like the international career. So,
and we're really shocked. We're really surprised. Have you looked at Maradona in the late 80s? Have you seen him? Don't tell me he wasn't on cocaine. Oh, yeah, no, all that, yeah.
Yeah, it was, it's funny how these great players can go, well, there's only one team that stands in confetti at the end. So unless you're that lucky, 20 or so, your international career is going to end with disappointment at some point, whether a failure to qualify, a failure to be called up, or a failing at the World Cup. And certainly when we look back at Zidane, he went out with a bang and a World Cup champion in 98. So, not all is lost there.
Euro in 2000, of course. But it would have capped off a great time, and it would have bookend the golden generation of France, an 8 year of wonder. We all talk about Spain and how Spain was great. Well, Spain replicated France from late 90s, early 2000s. But nobody talks about that because Spain did it in a row. Anyways, Duane, before we move on and wrap up the show for today, why don't we think about the World Cup in a month? Now, we're going to start. We've already talked about the England's group last week. We're going to go into deeper groups in the next couple of weeks and explore matchup and explore what we want to happen. But this is as a fan, as a Panini sticker collector, which I am, as the World Cup is way more than sport. It's communities. It's literally an intense moment that we fall in love with our sport in a different way. It's not about club. It's not about money. It's almost discovering the beautiful game for the first time without having. Of course, I know there's going to be publicity everywhere, Coca-Cola and all those commercials. But at least when I'm looking at the players, it's not about contract. It's not about who's going to re-sign and who's going to sign. What's the problem? Oh, the depth chart. No, it's about just who can perform now, who can perform in 4 days' time, and who can perform in 8 days' time. It's a bit back to the basics, and it's kind of like what I like about the World Cup when we're looking at the teams and the players. It's not about the money. It's not about the superstars. It's about the ball being kicked.
Yeah, and look, every World Cup has, dark horses that emerge and storylines that happen. And as I said on the show last week, I think that the parity in world football lends itself to the possibility of a true upset winner eventually happening. And that's something for us all to cheer for. But I'm looking forward to a lot of things here, and I'm mostly looking forward to seeing sort of who that dark horse team is. And I've heard several suggestions out there. I've heard Peru mentioned as a possible team to watch out for that you might not think about. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about Egypt as that team. I don't know. There's so many people talking about Egypt that I'm not sure they're a dark horse anymore. Iceland will be, the sentimental favorite for a lot. It's going to be a fun World Cup.
If Ronaldo can bring Portugal to a World Cup final with a decent, if not good, supporting cast, Mo Salah is not bringing Egypt to World Cup final. There's only so much you can do by yourself, isn't it?
You'd think, yeah. I mean,
you would hope. Look at Messi, 7-1.
Yeah, and he did eventually get to World Cup final, obviously the last cycle, but wasn't able to get the job done in the final. Obviously, I think Germany, Spain, those are your favorites. France probably is the third favorite I would put in there. It's going to be one of those teams that are likely going to win it. But as I said, that possibility is out there. And I don't, Belgium's a team that really interests me to watch. Colombia is a team that no one's talking about. They've taken a step back a bit, but they're still immensely talented. Like I said, so many storylines, so much fun to look forward to. And the cafes will be hopping. The time zones are good for playing hooky and work and getting out there and enjoying yourself. Going to be a good time, and we'll be all over it with daily coverage during the World Cup, Kevin.
Yes, exactly. World Cup today will be live every day during the World Cup, depending on the hours of the games. We'll need to see the schedule, tentatively at 10 a.m. so far. We'll see if it's respectable during the World Cup, but I'm getting excited. And I know I've talked about this before, and it's coming on May 29th, but I'm truly getting geared up for a World Cup when the FIFA video game comes out. And it comes out on May 29th. On May 29th, I'll be able to try to qualify Canada for a World Cup because, well, it's the only way I see my damn kit in the tournament. Until reality comes maybe in a few years. But until then, May 29th, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, FIFA World Cup 2018.
And that's I will not be partaking in that. I would not be able to qualify Canada World Cup. I wouldn't be able to qualify Germany to the World Cup because I am a terrible FIFA player.
But Duane, you know what's coming in FIFA, in the Football Manager? Free agents. Free agents are coming next week in Football Manager game near you.
There you go. It's fun times. I haven't played Football Manager in a while. Maybe I'll fire a save up on the weekend. That'll be a fun thing to do as I watch the MLS action this weekend, Kevin. And lots of soccer floating down. The Premier League wraps up. We all know the title. Not a lot to play for there. Just kind of a quasi relegation battle, so to speak. Although that one looks like it's almost set, but. Be fun to have the fancy dress parties and all that sort of stuff in the stands to watch that on Sunday. Watch MLS action before that. Going to be a good weekend before we gear up, as I said a couple times now, in less than 5 weeks for the World Cup. Oh my God, it's almost here.
It's almost here. And Monday we'll be back with the regular edition of Soccer Today, talking about the weekend in Major League Soccer, in the Premier League, and the world of football with a soccer perspective. You can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. We'll be back Monday. And until then, how about a little bit more of memories from 2010? But not too long because copyrights. So have a great soccer.